You can't defeat me.
No, I know. But he can.
Stellaris Developer Diary 322 has dropped, and we have a colossal amount of information to go through today, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure that you are relaxed, you've got somewhere to sit down, and you've got some snacks and possibly some drinks. I don't want you to die of dehydration while we go through all of this. We're looking at changes to leaders. Of course, we know some changes were coming, but we're going to be getting a lot more in terms of detail on that. We're also looking at a host of changes coming to civics, traditions, and Ascension perks, along with quite a few quality of life improvements. And I have to say, some of these changes seem a little crazy. I'm pretty sure it's going to be possible from year 5 or 6 to get level 6 Admirals that can be placed as governors on your planet and provide well over 50 or 60% bonus output to all of your workers, which is equivalent to having like all 3 of the basic resource edicts active at once, but of course you can still activate those on top. And they'll also be granting 25% additional worker bonus to all of the other planets in the same sector as well. It's going to get a little mental here, and I think martial law might be just a teeny bit broken. Stick around for all of that and more. For now though, let's dive in. We're going to start with the leader consolidation. Now, some of this information will not be new to you, but a lot of it definitely is. You already probably know, if you've been keeping up with the developer diaries or with my videos, that the 4 leader classes are being consolidated down into just 3. We're going to be going through each of those classes, each of the subclasses, and for the first time ever, what effects those subclasses will have. On top of that, we're going to be looking at what the new governor role is in the game, and even more. We will get onto all of that in good time, so let's start right at the beginning. The Commander class is our new military leader class. We're going to get some different bonuses depending on which veteran class or which subclass we pick once we get to level 4. Admirals is now a subclass, and it will focus on fleets and general naval combat. You will get plus 5% ship's weapon damage, plus 5% ship fire rate, and plus 5% ship disengagement chance. Basically, all the bonuses that would be good for being an admiral. On the general side of things, because that's one of the other 4 subclasses, you can focus on taking planets and assaulting static defenses. Armies, planetary bombardment, ground combat, and attacking defensive structures such as star bases are the general's forte. Ship damage against star bases plus 5%, ship orbital bombardment damage plus 5%, and army damage plus 5%. It will be interesting to see if they rework some of the traits for the leaders and they give new general traits that are basically bonuses for defeating star bases on top of just this bonus. If that is the case, it means defeating entrenched positions should be quite easy as long as you bring a general or 2 with you. The Commissioner focuses on planetary governance, otherwise known as martial law. And martial law, as we'll see in just a bit, is kind of broken according to the numbers we are being shown. So a commissioner will grant plus 2 soldiers on a planet and plus 1 soldier jobs in a sector. What exactly that means in terms of the planet versus sector difference, we will see a bit later, but basically they've shaken up how governors work, as you probably well know. Finally, the strategist is a council position, basically a council-focused commander, especially good apparently for the Minister of Defense. You get military ship build speed plus 5% as a base bonus, which is pretty much the same as what strategist is today. The old governor class is gone, and it has been merged into the new official class along with some of the envoy functions. This is the administrative leader class. It comes in 4 subclasses once you get to level 4. The Delegate focuses on federations and the galactic community. If they are assigned to the galactic community, you will get plus 5% diplomatic weight. If they're assigned to a federation, you'll get plus 0.5 monthly cohesion. As an industrialist, this official will focus on planetary governance, basically like the old governor, industry and development. you'll get planet effects. Resources from Specialists plus 5%, pop amenities usage minus 10%. As well as sector effects being half of the planet effects. This is a theme you will start to notice as we go on. And those are, I'm not going to read them out, but they're half of the planet effects. Ambassador. This is more of the council focus on diplomacy, espionage, and first contact. And they are especially suited apparently for the new Minister of State position. This will give country trust growth plus 5%. The last, but by absolutely no means least, is the Advisor veteran class. That is a council-focused class as well, so officials have 2 council-focused subclasses. And this is more of a focus, though, on the economy, which is probably going to be the more powerful of these 2 veteran classes. You'll get minus 5% pop upkeep and plus 5% trade value empire-wide. This is pretty much the same as one of the similar effects we used to have back in the current patch. Last up, we have the third class. That is the Scientist class, remaining the same as previously. However, we now have different veteran classes. The Explorer will focus on surveying and exploration, gaining 10% survey speed and 10% anomaly discovery chance. Due to the fact that veteran classes only start at level 4, and, getting to level 4 isn't immediate, it does take some time. I think this is probably the weakest of the veteran classes here, because once you've surveyed the galaxy, and once you've discovered all the anomalies, what's the point in having an Explorer? Definitely something I think needs to be looked at in the game. Next up, we have the Academic. They focus on archaeology and anomalies, so more anomaly research speed at plus 10%, increased archaeology excavation speed at plus 10%, and increased astral rift exploration speed at plus 10%. Interesting. The Analyst focuses on planetary governance or assisting research. Interesting they write that there. It might be that the assist research action from science ships is simply no longer available in game. This will grant a planetary effect of plus 10% research from jobs, and a sector effect of half of that at plus 5%. That is basically the assist research action we used to do with our scientists before any other bonuses from leader level came in. However, if this is what I think it is, it means that one scientist assisting research on one planet can now improve the bonus output from researcher jobs on every planet in the sector as long as they are a sector governor. Finally, the Statistician focuses on the Council, especially the Minister of Science position. They get a juicy plus 5% research speed just across the board. As part of this redesign, the developers have gone through and rebalanced or replaced hundreds of leader traits. That means that each of these classes now may have different traits that they previously either did not have or belonged to a different veteran class. That's going to be very interesting, and I cannot wait to start building a tier list. Hopefully this time I can finish it before everything changes again. Anyway, many have significantly changed, and the overall power level has generally been decreased, according to the developers. Well, we will have to see on that one. In order to ensure that leader leveling feels rewarding, regardless of owning galactic paragons or not, traits chosen when leveling up will now be biased towards the leader's current position. I assume that means if you have them on the council, they're more likely to get council traits, whereas you have them in a fleet, they're more likely to get fleet-based traits. I'm not quite sure how that will work if you have an admiral that is both commanding a fleet and on the council. I suppose they cannot be commanding a fleet and additionally be governing a planet, so that might be kind of the dichotomy we're looking at there. But what is this thing I'm showing you otherwise? As mentioned in previous dev diaries, leader caps are now per class, so we have 3 separate caps, and exceeding 1 only affects that specific class. Also, I think if you can see here, we are having a base leader capacity of 3 per class, meaning at the start of the game, we can have 9 leaders in total. 3 admirals, 3 scientists, and 3 officials before we look at anything from traditions. Here we can see finishing the aptitude tradition grants at least +1 official, or looking at civics, looking at any other bonuses we may have. That probably represents a large increase to the leader cap in the game, which I think is something a lot of people have been crying out for. Separating as well the penalties as being per class is very interesting. It means that you can have the exact number of scientists as your cap, but for example, go over officials and just go, well, I'll bite the bullet there on increased upkeep and reduced experience because I need these extra officials, but my scientists are still gaining experience at the normal rate. This is actually a really cool quality of life improvement that does kind of make it more powerful to go over leader caps in certain specific situations. Now let's talk about governors, because from now on, any leader class can technically become a governor and govern a planet. And honestly, for some classes, it seems pretty darn crazy. With the removal of the governor leader class, the developers are now allowing all leader classes to govern planets and sectors. Each leader class focuses on a different aspect of governance. Officials are better suited to be generalists and governing your resource extraction and industrial worlds. Scientists are better suited to governing research worlds, which has replaced the assist research functionality that the science ship formerly had. I knew it. Commanders are better suited to govern recently conquered worlds and those with a high level of crime. While bringing back sector governors, the developers still wanted local planetary governors to be desirable in some cases. Thus, throughout the game, they've gone and ensured that the majority of governor-related traits and leader effects apply at full strength to the planet they are governing, and at half strength to all other planets in the same sector if they are governing the sector capital. This is massive, okay? Before now, your trait only affected the planet you were on. From now on, if you have, let's say, a plus 20% resource output trait on the planet, that means that every other planet in the same sector, as long as you're governing the sector capital, will get half of that bonus at plus 10% resource output across the entire sector. That is crazy powerful. I mean, come on, people. That is insane, all right? Now, let's take a look at what these governing effects are, because, oh boy, they are mental. It's important to know that a planetary governor will always supersede the sector governor if one exists. So you might have an industrialist overseeing your core sector and then assign a commissioner to a planet where that pesky criminal syndicate has set up shop in order to drive down crime. What do these governors actually do? Now, I'm only going to read the planetary effects. Remember, they also have a sector-wide effect, which is half of the planetary effect. Let's start with officials. They grant plus 5% basic resources from jobs, plus 5% advanced resources from jobs, plus 5% strategic resources from jobs, and minus 2% empire size from pops. That sounds pretty nice. Scientists grant 5% research output from jobs for every research type, and minus 2% empire size from pops. Now let's get on to martial law, which honestly I'm saying is pretty broken and overpowered right now. Planet governor effect. Minus 5% ruler pop resource output, minus 5% specialist pop resource output. That sounds pretty bad. Plus 5% worker pop resource output, and plus 5% slave pop resource output. That's pretty good. Minus 2 crime, minus 2% empire size, and the reason it's broken, plus 2 stability from soldier jobs. There's one little fact that I failed to mention while reading through these, okay, ladies and gentlemen? That fact is that this effect isn't just a one-off. Oh, no. Those effects are multiplied by the leader's level. Yes, you heard me correctly. So a level 10 leader, for example, let's start with level 5. Level 5 is easy to get. Let's say you're an Admiral at level 5. That means you need to have, you need to have taken Distinguished Admiralty and the Experienced Cash Civic, and then got +1 level in game to get to level 5. That's how easy that is. You can do that, by year 6 or 7. So, year 6 or 7, you could have a level 5 Admiral getting minus 25% ruler and specialist pop resource output. That's pretty bad. Plus 25% worker pop resource output and slave pop resource output. That's pretty good. And in addition to that, plus 10 stability from soldier jobs. Yes, plus 10 stability from soldier jobs. Can somebody please tell me you're seeing what the problem might be here, right? So stability, every point of stability adds plus 0.6% resource output from jobs. So let's say we have, 2 soldiers down on the planet. Let's say, for example, that would be granting us at level 5 plus 20 stability, which is plus 12% resource output from jobs. So we're only actually losing around 15% from our specialists, less than that, sorry, minus 12%, sorry, from our specialists, and minus 12% from our rulers. And we're gaining plus 37% from our workers and our slaves. That is crazy good. That is crazy. I mean, add in an extra 2 soldier jobs, and suddenly that negative modifier completely thrown out of the window. We'll be at max 100% stability on the world in no time. Oh my goodness me, it's insane. The scientists are also crazy, plus 25% research from jobs just by being a level 5 scientist. Be a level 5 official, get plus 25% alloys, energy, minerals, food, anything you want. They've nerfed leaders quite a bit by taking away the leader traits and removing them, or they said they were going to do that, and they've given so much back by making the governor effects honestly insane. These bonuses are just wacky, people. The fact that it is multiplied by the leader level is the crazy part here. I mean, somebody call me out if you think I'm overstating things, but I really don't think I am. That's some crazy bonuses that you can get very early on in the game, and probably earlier than used to be possible because, well, we'll look at some of the tradition changes in a moment and you'll see why. Each leader class also has, and this is where it gets even crazier, a veteran subclass dedicated to governance, which is required to gain veteran traits, the governor veteran traits. The commissioner is for the commander type, and that grants plus 2 soldier jobs on the planet. You know that extra stability I said you needed? Well, you don't even have to build a fortress or a stronghold in order to get it. The commissioner simply gives you the soldier jobs to grant bogus extra stability. The industrialist reduces pop amenities usage and increases specialist pop resource output. Don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, as well, there is a sector effect here that will affect every other planet as long as this leader is a governor on the sector capital. Finally, the analyst class just flat grants plus 10% research boost to the planet that you're governing. I mean, yeah, you're already getting at level 4 plus 20% by being a scientist, research improvement, plus another 10% here, that's plus 30%. So a level 4 analyst scientist is granting plus 30% before other traits and bonuses that we may not know about. This is looking to be really crazy, multiplicatively, additively crazy. Let's take a look now at representatives and emissaries. So, in addition to the new Minister of State Council position that most non-Gestalt empires now have at the start of the game, meaning regular bios now start with 4 council positions, so your agenda should be going faster than they used to, officials can now be assigned as Federation representatives and Galactic Community emissaries instead of envoys. An official assigned to one of these positions give the same effects as a number of envoys equal to their level did back before 3.10. Thus, your envoys are now free to improve or harm relations with other empires or build spy networks in them. So spying should see something of a renaissance coming up now in terms of like having lots of intel. Doesn't mean that they necessarily have a lot you can do with them because a lot of the spy missions probably need a rework, but that's a discussion for another time. Let's look quickly then at what this official does. So per level, remember these effects are per level. I keep having to stress that because to me that is honestly crazy. It's fun that they get better as they level up, but they're now crazy powerful. So per level, you get +1 monthly cohesion if you send a leader to a federation. And if you send them to the diplomatic community, you get plus 10% diplomatic weight per level. That is before any other bonuses. What's fun about this is it's now a level playing field for all different empire types. In the past, it was the case where non-Gestalt empires actually got more envoys in total because of Xenophile and other things, other civics, and therefore they could stack more diplo weight in the community. Now it's just based on leader level and leader traits. That is going to be quite interesting to see how the balance is changing. It also, of course, means if your high-level leader in the diplomatic community dies, your diplo weight could sink like a stone. So leaders are kind of more important than ever before. We have already seen what the new council position Minister of State does, so I'm not going to really go through it again, but here it is right now if you've not seen it. You get some bonuses to envoy improve and harm relations, first contact speed and infiltration speed, and it must be filled by an official. There we are. What is important to note, and brand new information, is that certain civics, for example Inward Perfection and Fanatic Purifiers, block access to the Minister of State position and will instead start the game with their special Civic Council position unlocked. Now, it hasn't been mentioned yet, but later on we're going to find out that not having a Minister of State imparts a minus 25% diplomatic weight penalty. They've reduced the penalty for the isolationist diplomatic stance as well from minus 50% to minus 25%. So if you're isolationist with no Minister of State, then you get minus 50% diplomatic penalty, like old isolationist used to be. However, if you have Minister of States in position, then you'll be fine. You'll only get the minus 25% negative. For officials that are assigned to either the galactic community or your federation, there is now a subclass called the Delegate and a variety of veteran traits that can be used in these assignments. Yes, new traits are coming. Let's look at the first one here, Delegate, which is already on screen, plus 5% diplomatic weight, so that's the Galcom effect, and plus 0.5 monthly cohesion. These, though, are small benefits compared to the base benefit for having an official, which is, if you'll remember, plus 10% diplomatic weight per level and plus 1 monthly cohesion per level. So getting to level 4, yes, you do get a bonus by specializing into Delegate, but what you're really trying to do here is unlock other veteran traits. Traits such as Camaraderie here, which grants you additional Federation monthly experience. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, finally, we can level up our federations faster. This is something I know a lot of people have wanted to do for a while, but it's great we finally have that right. On top of that, we also get some of the focuses for the galactic community. For example here, Unchained Knowledge. When voting on any Unchained Knowledge resolutions, which is the science-based resolution, you'll get plus 15% voting strength. This is level 2. I assume level 3 is plus 25% voting strength. That's basically an extra 15 or 25% diplomatic weight by simply having a single trait. That's very cool, very thematic as well, that it is tied into a specific chain of resolutions. I'm assuming those are going to be locked behind, or the ability to roll these leader traits will be locked behind certain either leader ethics or empire ethics. For example, if you're pacifist, you might be able to roll the awful traits about recycling and garbage and stuff. Or if you're materialist, you'll be able to get the fantastic traits that improve your alloy production and mineral production galaxy-wide. And of course, by traits here, I mean the traits that give you extra voting weight to unlock the resolutions. You might have seen in the intro video and in previous developer diaries that they have nerfed the resource traits. For example, Private Miner used to grant at level 2 plus 32 minerals just out of nowhere. Just here's 32 minerals a month, just take it. Take the minerals, enjoy them, they're yours. But now it doesn't do that. Special thanks to Alfred Strike, one of the game designers, for sharing this on the Stellaris official Discord, but this is an image of what Private Mines does today. You can see now that it grants governor effects, that is planet and sector wide, of plus 5%, and on the home planet of Earth, I assume that is the home planet of the governor themselves, or of the leader, though it may just be the home planet of the species. It's not really defined here if they are using the narrative home planets of the leaders, because don't forget they have narrative home planets, narrative previous jobs, all of that is included as part of their description when the leader is hired. I hope that their home planet has these minor jobs added to them. But what we're getting here is plus 2 minor jobs, so no free minerals, and an increase, a boost, if you set this leader as a governor to minerals from miners at 5% on the capital, 2.5% on the sector, if it's on another planet on the sector. I assume this doubles up to 10% and probably 4 jobs. Maybe it goes actually to 15% and 6 jobs though. We will have to see. I'm really interested to see if this is the same for all of the previous resource traits, because if it is, then private, the alloy trait, metallurgist trait, whatever that was called, if that grants plus 2 metallurgist jobs or plus 4 metallurgist jobs on your capital, and now we have more leaders than ever before, stacking say 10 or 15 of those could get you an extra 20 or 40 metallurgist jobs without needing to build any of the districts. holy crap, that would be powerful. You could create some absolutely insane worlds in terms of not the size, but the number of jobs available by stacking these traits. So yes, they have nerfed the resource traits, but in some ways they've risen up more powerful than you can possibly imagine. Let's look now at admirals, generals, and commanders and find out where some of the traits have gone. As is mentioned before, they have combined admirals and generals into the commander leader class. Broadly speaking, their subclass traits were then assigned as follows. The aggressor and tactician traits went into the admiral class, the strategist traits stayed with strategist, the invader went to the general, the protector was split between general and commissioner, and the marshal was split between strategist for army related traits and ambassador for espionage related traits. So any of the espionage related traits that used to be with general are now found in the ambassador veteran class, which is part of the official class. I don't know about you, but I'm honestly starting to get confused by all of these different classes. This is a little confusing. It's only 12, I suppose, but it's new, and at the moment I am struggling just a little bit to keep up with what was where and what now is what, and what means this over here and that means something by the other place, and oh my goodness me. There's a new feature that's coming to the forefront with added effects. Back in 3.8, the developers added council legitimacy. Honestly, I didn't even notice this. I'm not sure it was included in the UI. It probably was, but it had no mechanical effects. It was a good step to represent the degree to which factions in your empire approve of how the empire is run, the council, empire policies, and so on. In 3.10, legitimacy on the council is now important. Honestly, I think they're borrowing this a bit from Victoria 3, but I will not be complaining because I think it's a great new mechanical feature to have in. Having high council legitimacy will give a bonus to council agenda speed, which caps at plus 25% when you hit 100% legitimacy. Having low council legitimacy will give a penalty to council agenda speed, capping at minus 50% at 0% legitimacy. For modders, these values are determined by defines. Now, I really hope that democratic empires will have some ability to change and impact these effects. Possibly democratic empires need higher legitimacy, but when they have very high legitimacy, can do much, much more. That would be a very cool feature to include. And if you're enjoying this video, please legitimize that like button. Since council legitimacy is a weighted sum of the approval of each faction multiplied by their support in the empire, this means that empires with relatively few factions, each of which have high approval, should manage to pass agendas much more quickly. For example, here we can see a current council legitimacy of 86.63%. That is granting plus 18.31% council agenda speed, which is quite a tasty boost. If you own Galactic Paragons, the developers have made the Minister of Defense, Head of Research, and the new Minister of State council positions no longer mandatory. Instead, when you choose to reorganize the council, these positions will be removed and can be reselected, much like Civic and Enclave council positions. However, each of these positions will have their own penalties if they are not present and staffed. If you lack a Minister of Defense, you will lose 25% of your naval capacity. If you lack a Minister of State, you lose 25% of your diplomatic weight. And if you lack a Head of Research, you will lose 25% of your research speed. Those penalties are not to be trifled with, so it probably means we'll be taking all three of these council positions, even if the Minister of State is a bit ineffective. During the work done for leader consolidation, the developers discussed various ideas for further improving the council mechanics, and they may revisit them at some point in the future, so we can hopefully, well, we can hope at least, we can hopefully hope that the developers will be adding more content into the council features. Of course, the developers are doing even more tinkering. Some of the civics are getting rebalanced. The majority of civics that were leader related or themed are going to be seeing some changes, and the developers are leaving us with a few examples. As part of this, they've also changed the effects that previously made it too easy to support a near infinite number of not just vassals, but also leaders. Yes, that feudal society build is going the way of the dodo. Let's dive through the 5 civics that we are being shown. First off, on the top left, aristocratic elite. The main change here is that leaders will have a 20% chance to start with both an additional positive and negative trait. I think this means that they get one of each, though it could be there's a 20% chance for an additional positive and a 20% chance for an additional negative. So not all of the leaders that get the +1 positive will get the +1 negative. Moving over to Feudal Society, you'll notice here we no longer get absolutely free upkeep on leaders. On top of that, we only get subjects exempt from divided patronage +1. Subjugation acceptance is at +25, and this is actually really powerful, subject naval capacity contribution +5%. So you're going to be getting some naval contribution from your subjects without needing the Khan's throne. Looking a little higher up on this Feudal Society Civic, sorry I read it from bottom to top, but you will now be able to ignore the brand new diplomatic requirements when proposing subjugation. So diplomatic subjugation will be much easier for feudal societies. Jumping down to the middle left, technocracy, you can see that not much has changed here, except that expertise traits will now have additional effects. We'll get to look at one of those additional effects in just a moment. Going to the bottom right, Heroic Past, they've gotten rid of, honestly, the main benefits here, which was +1 starting trait, and instead you simply get +1 leader capacity for every leader type across the board. We start with 3 of each capacity, this would put you up to 4 of each. Yes, that's alright. Honestly, I can't see how this Civic is worth it now. It went from being very good, A tier, possibly above, down to being kind of C-D tier, low D. Maybe you'll pick it up in the mid-game, but really, no. Imperial Cult on the bottom left, the ruler's home planet will get additional priest jobs, which is very interesting, and the Edict Fund will go up by +100. That's normal, we've seen that before, but the additional priest jobs on your home planet is definitely cool. I'm assuming you don't need extra buildings for that, so you simply get extra priest jobs, leaving you with additional building slots available to put other buildings on your homeworld. Looking at the additional effects that expertise traits give you, here we can see expertise propulsion also has effects if the scientist is a governor. That is +10% engineering research from jobs and +5% sector-wide, as usual, half of the previous bonus. That's pretty powerful, and that's only level 1. I imagine as it levels up, that bonus increases. So we could be looking at some pretty balmy bonuses. Stacking this kind of stuff, along with the 50% for being level 10 research bonus, plus the analyst bonus that we saw, and possibly other bonuses. I wonder what Collaborator does now in terms of bonuses. We could be looking at over +100% research from jobs simply from having a scientist as a governor. And that would then be +50% for all of the rest of the planets in the sector. This leader nerf that they've done really seems to be very nerfy. I very much feel that leaders have been, nerfed. Whilst reworking leader classes and traits, the developers have also gone through and rebalanced leader-adjacent tradition trees and Ascension perks. Yes, we're also getting a rework to our tradition trees yet again. Yay! Anywho, let's continue. I guess it just means I've got more tier lists to make all over again, which is good, right? That's excellent. More work, which is good. Anywho, aptitude. So, the opener here has been swapped from +1 trait on leaders for +1 trait selection when leveling up. Not sure whether or not that's fantastic. That seems like a bit of a nerf. The finisher has replaced the effects with +1 commander, official, and scientist capacity. Yeah, that seems like a bit of a nerf, just increasing our leader capacity a little. The Empire Needs You no longer increases leader pool size. Ooh, that's definitely a nerf. Specialist Training has swapped the +25% leader XP gain for +1 leader pool size. Right, so we don't get the extra leader experience gain here. Okay. Psychological Profiling no longer reduces the number of negative traits leaders can have. And healthcare programs swapped the +20 leader lifespan increase, +20 years, for -1 max negative traits, the thing we just lost from psychological profiling. So overall, they've really reduced a lot of things. They've reduced a lot of areas here. The worst thing that's been hit, though, especially for meta builds, PvP meta builds, and just rush builds in general, Champions of Empire has been completely hobbled. We no longer have any of the old effects in Champions of Empire. Instead, the +1 leader initial level, which is something that used to be in the finisher, is now Champions of Empire. You just get +1 leader initial level. So overall, they've kind of gutted aptitude and removed a lot of the powerful bonuses here and not really replaced them with anything. They just moved things around. Aptitude is probably still a very good pick, but it's not an auto pick every time now, possibly. I mean, we'll have to see how it shapes out. But this might move it from S tier down to maybe A tier, possibly B tier. I'll have to really look into it to work it out. Discovery. The Science Division tradition, they replaced the Scientist cost and upkeep modifiers, oh thank god, those are terrible, terrible bonuses, with +1 Scientist capacity and +1 Scientist initial level. That is really good. In Domination, Colonial Viceroys has had the same modifications. They've replaced the Governor cost and upkeep modifiers with +1 official capacity and +1 official initial level. That is really very good to be increasing the initial levels. Combining that with aptitude means you could start at +2 levels. Having, I don't know, Vaults of Knowledge or Experience Cache puts you at +3. And I'm assuming we're going to see the same thing with, in a moment, with Supremacy for Commanders. And that means if we include Distinguished Admiralty and all of those bonuses, oh my goodness me, our commanders would start with +2, +3, +4, +5 levels. So commanders would start at a minimum of level 6. Just through traditions, traits, and civics. That sounds pretty broken to me, but you let me know down in the comments below if you think that's a bit crazy. Finally, in this first run through, Enmity now has some changes. Rise to the Occasion provides +1 commander, official, and scientist capacity for every 3 rivals. So at a maximum of 6, that's a maximum of +6 leader cap, 2 each across the board. Within politics, the opener and gravitas now affect officials assigned to the galactic community and not envoys. I mean, that just makes sense because they've removed assigning envoys to the Galcom, so just give those bonuses to officials. I'm assuming that's the diplomatic weight bonuses, but honestly, I'm not sure yet. Statecraft has seen some extensive reworks, and now it's possibly the most powerful agenda, if not, it's on par with where aptitude used to be in the game. The opener increases Edict Fund from 20 to 50. That's okay, nothing amazing, it's nice to have, but fair enough. The finisher replaced the effects with -5% empire size. That's definitely very nice in larger empires. By reducing empire size rather than empire size effect, you can hopefully get under that 100 cap if you're playing tall and not have any negative problems, but also be able to complete agendas much more easily and much more cheaply. Constitutional Focus increases council agenda speed to 25% rather than 10%. Immutable Directive increases agenda duration to 25% rather than 10%. You'll see a theme here. They're both increasing quite a lot more now, and that agenda speed increase of 25% is really, really good. That's effective to having an extra councillor if you have a council of 4. Amongst peers, replace the effects with, as before it used to be, whenever you completed agenda, you got 300 XP for every leader in your empire. Now, every councillor gains 150 experience per level when an agenda is completed. So a level 5 councillor on your council will get 750 XP every time you can complete an agenda. Rushing to level 8 with statecraft and agenda rushing is now more viable than ever. I'm going to be doing a video soon on a tall build involving genius armorer, statecraft, and some other tricksy things. But yeah, this is going to be a cornerstone of that build if it's still effective in 3.10. We will have to do some testing. Shared benefits replace the effects with +1 effective councillor level. So not only do we have more councillors now as a bio-empire, we now have 4 base rather than 3. If you take statecraft, they can all be more effective. They can all be getting lots and lots of experience every time you rush and complete an agenda. This is going to be absolutely bonkers. Supremacy. As I predicted, war games, they've replaced the Admiral cost and upkeep modifiers with +1 commander capacity and +1 commander initial level. Yes, so you can get level 6 Admirals right out of the gate simply by having 2 traditions and 2 civics. that actually is very easy to do early on. Oh my goodness me. You could actually get there within, I think, year 5 or 6, and then you'd be hiring level 6 commanders. What the hell? Okay, this is fine. This is all fine. I'm fine with what's happening. Unyielding, resistance is frugal, has removed all the modifiers for generals, but not replaced it with anything. That's kind of a nerf for unyielding, even though generals weren't great. Synthetics have had a change as well. The non-machine opener has replaced the effects with minus 25% roboticist upkeep and minus 25% robot upkeep. Upkeep reductions are nice, and a minus 25% robot upkeep reduction is quite a large amount of energy credits in your empire. We're also getting changes to some Ascension perks. Archaeo engineers will now add +1 scientist capacity. Galactic force projection has finally been reworked. It will now increase your influence generation from power projection by 2, give you +1 commander capacity, and still increase your naval capacity, this time by +100, and increase your fleet capacity now by +50. Those are some really big numbers actually. That makes Galactic force projection really quite powerful. Eternal Vigilance has added +1 commander capacity, Imperial Prerogative has added +2 official capacity, Transcendent Learning now provides +2 scientist capacity rather than +1 of each across the board, which was kind of what I expected it to do, and +25% leader XP gain. That's gone down from the +33% that it used to be. Only adding scientist capacity is probably not great now as well. I'm not sure Transcendent Learning is really the auto pick that it used to be, especially given that these leader caps are larger than they used to be at 3 apiece, so 9 rather than 6. Universal Transactions adds +1 official capacity and +2 commercial pact effectiveness now. The Ascension perk changes are just minor, but overall I think they reflect quite a big change we're going to be seeing with leaders. Leaders are now not as hard to come by as they used to be. We're going to be having more leaders than ever before in Stellaris. Well, than patch 3.8, than Galactic Paragons. We're kind of going back to an old system, but we didn't really mind how many leaders we had. Don't go back too far, because we did have a leader cap right at release in 1.0, but you know, there was a golden zone for a while where we just had as many leaders as we wanted. The developers have added a new tab, a new thing in the main menu, the additional content browser. The devs often see threads asking exactly what's in each of their DLCs. In an effort to improve the clarity of what you're getting with each release, they have expanded the recommended content element that's been in the game for a while and made some improvements. The recommended content element gave brief descriptions of the various DLCs, but left a lot of questions. The developers have replaced this with a more robust additional content browser that can draw information directly from game files, providing much more detailed and accurate preview information. Hopefully, this will help everybody make more informed decisions about DLC purchases. Here you can see the additional content window where Utopia on the bottom right there is recommended. How surprising. And here is an example of looking at, I believe this is Utopia. You can see the core features on the right listed and concepts within tooltips, so explaining what everything actually is, with the nested tooltips is entirely featured. This is really awesome, actually. For those of you that don't have DLC and you often wonder what is in a DLC, this will give you a very, very good overview of what you are getting with each DLC. You know, I actually forgot that slavery is DLC accessible. You need the Utopia DLC to access slavery, which kind of makes me feel a bit dirty that I paid extra for the perk of enslaving people, but you know, not people, aliens. Filthy Xenos. Anyway, moving on. We're over 40 minutes through. I mean, I think we're about to hit the 41-minute mark. These dev diaries, yesterday's and today's dev diaries, have been absolutely enormous. Thank you very much if you stuck with me through all of this. Again, thank you for sticking through my sore throat, illness, bad congested sinuses, etc. I apologize for any vocal distress I may have caused while trying to help you out and impart some information, hopefully give you guys something fun to watch on the internet. Otherwise, though, this is the secret call out. Let me know if you've got to this point and you listened to that little preamble and not skipped ahead, because there are chapters you could have skipped ahead, but instead you've stayed listening to me, and you're still listening to me. Why are you listening to me? What are you doing? Anyway, let me know down in the comments below. I would, as always, love to hear from you. The developers still aren't done. There are more improvements and more changes coming. The outliner has been improved. I know a lot of people use Tiny Outliner. You might not need to do that anymore. Your scroll wheel may no longer suffer at the hands of having to go up and down between the planets and the ships and the other thing in the outliner. Why do I say that? Well, another bit of feedback the developers have gotten a lot is that the outliner has gotten a bit too cumbersome over the years. Whilst they've added some ability to customize it in past releases, in 3.10 they are adding outliner tabs. In this first version of the tabbed outliner, they have 4 tabs: government, ships, politics, and structures. These tabs will appear in the outliner once they are relevant. Notification bubbles can be activated on the tabs to let you know if there's something of interest on them. Green ones are for non-urgent things like a planet got colonized and has been added to the government tab, whilst red ones are a call to action like your science ship has no scientist. I mean, that's actually not the end of the world, but it could be nice to have a notification saying, look, the science ship is built, come and join us. You can see here from the images that we have collected, it's not like we thought. No, we're not on the planet Miranda. Instead, we've got some... It's excellent. So basically, you can jump between planets and ships just on the top here without having to scroll. The scrolling thing is over. I mean, yes, you may still have to scroll between planets if you have like 100, I suppose, but why not order them by sector and then open and close sectors individually, maybe? Still, this is a massive improvement. Hats off to the Custodian team. Thank you to Stellaris, the Stellaris team, Stellaris as well, the game, just thanks to everybody. This is great. I love this. In future releases, the developers even plan on exploring some more ideas they have had to make the outliner more customizable and even more useful. I kind of wish there'd be like a tiny outliner toggle that you could just kind of like toggle on off. Maybe if you could just toggle to make everything smaller and bigger, or change the font size of the outliner, that would be very, very cool. It wouldn't even have to have many fonts, just small, medium, and large, and to remove some of the wording in places if you don't want it. That way you wouldn't need to install a mod, you wouldn't have the multiplayer desync issues caused by having those mods installed by some people and not others, etc, etc. What else is coming? Event chain subtitles. Finally, the Custodians have also added a small new quality of life improvement to help you keep track of what events belong to what chain. Well, which chain, I think we should say. This new subtitle can be manually added to events, and when clicked, it will bring you to the relevant situation log. Since these have to be added manually, however, the developers will be asking for you, the player base, to hunt down any event chains you feel should be tracked in this way, but aren't once the patch has been released. They should have a form available in the dev diary 2 weeks from today after the 3.10 release. And we can see here the hunt for the Hyacinth. It has a little subtext here, event chain, the hunt for the Hyacinth. That is pretty cool. Or is it Hyacinth? I'm not actually sure. Let me know down in the comments what you think. But having event chains so we know what step in a process we're going through, especially there's lots of event chains firing, lots of different event chains firing all the time, it can get a little confusing and it can get a little complicated. This is a great quality of life improvement. Thank you very much, developers. So that is a lot of changes coming in the game. Overall, I think that they've nerfed leaders in some ways, and in others they've made them more powerful than ever before. Strike them down, and they've risen up more powerful than anybody could have possibly imagined. I mean, for example, with those military leaders, right? If you have 4 soldiers with a commander on a planet, that immediately means you are having no negative effects to specialists or to rulers, and you're getting massive bonuses to your workers and your slaves. So overall, isn't that just a net positive? You're getting lots of stability. It'll be very easy to max out at 100 stability. That's really powerful and strong. You could get a few more soldiers to push that stability even higher. You could get some slave soldiers, battle thralls, for example. Wouldn't that be awesome? And then, well, wouldn't you want to have some of those admirals, those commanders, I should say, fighting in your navy? Yes, absolutely. Just before you go to war, you move them from the planet to the ship. Just before a battle even, not even before you go to war, you move them from the planet to the ship, you fight the battle, you put them back on the planet. Yes, it's a nasty bit of micromanagement, but it would be the min-maxing thing to do for optimum effectiveness. Yeah, it's disgusting, but you know, in the grim darkness of patch 3.10, there is only min-max. Until next Tuesday, when the preliminary patch notes are released, and I'll be going through them in excruciating detail with and for you, ladies and gentlemen. If you've enjoyed this video and you need to find out more about the changes coming to Stellaris with patch 3.10 next week on the 16th of November, click the video on screen now.